Hello everyone and welcome to Flawless, a music podcast. My name is Liam and I'm here with my two co-hosts George.
Hello, Team Music.
And Grant.
Hello, music fans.
I like team music. We're all on team music. I love it. All of you who are listening right now.
Thanks, guys.
All of you who are listening right now are team music. We're all team music. Each episode of Flawless, a host or a guest nominates an album they think is flawless, and we discuss how they discovered it, what they love about it, and what makes it flawless for them. We have a Facebook group. It's called Flawless Friends and Family, and it's where we discuss all things music that we love and that you love, and we post in there about upcoming episodes and what albums are nominated. Except we didn't do that for this one because I forgot.
Oh, this is
My
disappointing.
bad.
Thanks,
My
Liam.
bad. You can find the link to that in our show notes.
Still not a surprise, though, because if you've clicked on this episode,
Yes.
you already know
You
what
do
we're
already
covering.
know. And of course, we have a Patreon. You can back us from as little as $1 a month, and you get early access to our episodes, access to our bonus episodes, which we will have. We are
Coming
recording
up
bonus
soon.
episodes with this recession right now. If you join right now, you'll get access to our bonus episodes and that warm, fuzzy feeling inside that you're helping us spread the flawless love. You can find us at patreon.com/flawlessamp.
Spreading the music team love. Team music.
Spreading the team music love.
Team Music. Go.
Team music.
Go, team.
Go,
team.
team.
Go.
Team
There we
music
go.
represent at all times.
So, whose turn is it, Liam?
Yes.
Today, this evening, whenever you're listening to this episode, it is my turn to nominate an album. And leading on from George's example of going to an English band and finding the most heartbreaking, depressing album she could find.
Yeah.
I
Right
I
up
have
there.
a theme.
yeah.
I think there is a theme.
Well, you had a theme for your last one, the Holy Bible. So I have decided to have a swing in a similar vein, and I am nominating the second album by the British indie rock band Editors called An End Has a Start.
Hold the blindfold down so your eyes can't see. Now run as fast as you can through this field of trees. Say
Boom.
Boom.
Look
There
at
we
you
go.
go, Liam.
Nice.
There we go.
Just, in my wheelhouse, like dipping your toe
Yeah.
and bringing it
In the
to
melancholy.
just to see if I'll
Dabble.
agree with him or not.
I've got some English
Couple of
folk
toes.
lined up too when it comes to that. So
Fuck off. No,
And that's why it's PG rated.
no. Liam
Boom.
said there was going to be a kibosh on all English folk because
I
I was
did-
doing too well with
I
it.
did not say that. I said I should make a kibosh on it. But
I think it
can't.
was a should, yeah, more than
And
that.
when I say it's the most depressing album since George's The Holy Bible, I'm not the only one who thought that, because that was literally like the headline of the Enemy's album review of
Serious?
An End Has a Start is the darkest album since the Manics the darkest album since the Manics The Holy Bible, and it's all too much.
And it's
No.
all too much,
Yeah.
okay.
So Enemy literally called out because there's a lot to talk about who editors sound like, and they sound like Interpol and they sound like Joy Division and those sorts of guys.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, these guys were like, in terms of tone and in terms of theme, yeah, they went straight to the Holy Bible.
So you're basically saying that they are British miserable fuckers.
Yes, exactly. Although they're not really, but we'll talk more about that.
I'm
as
sure we
go.
will. I've got no
So
doubt we
thank
will.
you for bringing. I made a joke recently. Somebody said Nas said that he wouldn't play a particular city because he had the ex that lived there. And I
yes.
made a tweet joke saying, if that happened to me when I go to the UK, the only place I'm not going is Birmingham. And this band is from
They are
Birmingham.
from Birmingham.
Wow.
Yes, they are four friends who met at Staffordshire University, which I don't know if that's in Birmingham or not.
Staffordshire. No, it's somewhere nicer.
Okay, well, yeah. So they
Birmingham doesn't get a good rap so much.
No, it doesn't. But it might,
Why?
I don't know if Birmingham's in Staffordshire. No, Birmingham, because it is known for like knife crime and drug use and homelessness, and being all of its architecture was kind of like 60s art brut, and so it was really run down, and the people were considered low lives because they had a really bad accent and stuff like that. So it gets a bad rap. It's actually not that bad at all.
Although you never had a boyfriend there.
I didn't have a boyfriend there. I did work there, like once a month, but no, I didn't have a boyfriend there, which means that I could go there and I could hang out with the editors. But I feel like they're not there anymore.
I don't think they're there anymore. No, I think they might be a bit hoi polloi for Birmingham. Birmingham. So it was released by Kitchenware Records, which is an awesome name for a label. Good on them. On 25th of June 2007 in the UK, and then 17th of July in the US. It was certified platinum in the UK on the same day it was released. So this was a big deal. People were very excited about this album. And it was the 69th best-selling album in the UK end-of-year album chart.
How many is
so
platinum
nice.
in the UK? Like numbers-wise, because it's different, isn't it, per country?
I was like,
I'll
should I
ask a
write down
silly
the numbers?
question.
And I'm sure I had the numbers sales written in there, and I think I deleted it to
I
to
thought
save
it was
space.
3 mil, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
very
it
it's
was
very
1,
different
2,
to
and 3.
Australia because it's all because platinum in Australia is like 500,000 or something. Because you think, oh yeah, it's got to be $1 million, but it's not. It's really low because obviously our market's a lot smaller. But yes,
Point being, it was a lot.
it was a
Go
lot.
platinum on day one.
Yes, day one. So UK #1 album, Netherlands #2, Australia it got to number 37, and in the US Billboard charts it got to number 117.
And then New Zealand.
You don't have the South
it
Africa
got
stats there.
I don't have the South Africa stats here.
got
New
to
Zealand,
37 in New
37.
Zealand,
nice.
of all things. But yeah, and it also went to gold in Belgium and Ireland.
Nice. So
Who'd
all
have
around cool sounds.
Yeah. So it's their second of 6 albums.
Mm-hmm.
So, Liam,
Yes.
how did you find this album and the editors in general?
So I knew of the editors from their first album, which I didn't have at the time, but I heard a couple of the singles off it and really, really liked it.
In the back room,
Yes, in the back room. So Munich and
Blood.
is it Blood? I was thinking it was probably Blood. So I knew those 2 singles. They were on. I think Triple J played them, and I heard them on the radio. Really liked them. For whatever reason, didn't get the album. And then I heard the first single of this album, which is "Smokers Outside the Hospital Doors." The video was making its way on MTV and all that sort of stuff. And the album got really good reviews as well. So I don't think I grabbed it like day of release, but I think I grabbed it fairly soon after it was released. Listened to it all the way through and just went, holy shit, that's amazing. And it's so consistently good all the way through. Because at that point I was still like buying albums of like 2 or 3 singles. And, you know,
Sure.
you find a lot of winners that way, but you also find a lot of bands that like, oh, yeah, your 2 and 3 singles were your good ones. And your ones in between are not quite up to the same standard. But for this one to just be so cool all the way through and just really locked in on the themes and the sound worked really well. And so, yeah, I loved it right from the start.
Cool.
And have you seen them live?
I have seen them live. So back in 2010, so not off the back of this album. So in the back of this album, they played a tour in Australia, but it must have been before I was getting into them. And then in 2010, so I think the album after this came out in 2009, and then they toured in 2010 off the back of that album. Well, they played the Sunset Sounds Festival here in Brisbane. They didn't actually do a full show, but they played Sunset Sounds. Really cool. I didn't like the next album or where they went after this. So after this album, they'd done their 2 sort of rock albums, and then for the rest of them, they started going very synth, very dancey. Not even dancey, very synth heavy.
Like, I didn't listen, so like everything, or like
Not even
Joy Division, or
So I don't know Joy Division and New Order that well, but
Okay.
not as punchy dance as everything like softer sort of stuff. Like obviously his voice is amazing, but the less of the guitar and more like synth controlling a lot of the sounds in the background sort of stuff. So the first single off the next album was called Papillon, and it's really cool because it's like really punchy dance.
And do you know what that means?
No,
It means butterfly in French.
nice. 'Cause
Like
he
the
says
book, yeah, sorry.
he says the main line of the chorus is "You're my own papillon." So yeah, you're my own butterfly, which is really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, they started going really synth. And in fact, Chris Urbanovich,
Yeah, how do you pronounce that one?
Urbanovich, not sure, who's the lead guitar for the first 2 albums and the next one, left between album 3 and 4 because musical direction. And apparently completely amicable, and we'll take them at their word on that.
Sure.
But my guess is, hey, Chris, your guitar's not going to be quite a big thing anymore. Cool. I'm going to go and find a band where my
something
guitar will be a big thing again.
Yeah, that's a shame.
It is a shame, but I also happen to agree with him. I mean, they couldn't have made 6 albums that just sounded like this. Like, no one wants you to just repeat yourself all the time.
No.
But where they went, I wasn't as excited about.
That next album, were the themes
Yes.
still...
They've always
Somber.
been. I mean, even in the first album as well, they're still quite a dark band. I think his voice lends itself to that in a way that he can't sing all the time about rainbows and puppies and stuff. So it's he's got a dark.
But I mean, that's his choice. He could
yes,
try.
he could try, but I think it would be less effective.
Tom Smith, if you're listening, you could reach out to any member of Flawless and just have a chat.
Yeah,
Sure.
That would be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. Cool.
So and it was produced by Jack Knife Lee, who'd done Block Party, Silent Alarm, I think, and a few other albums in that similar English punchy rock sort of space around this time, which is really cool.
Nice.
Cool.
George,
Hello.
had you heard of Editors before, knowing that you'd already spoiled this for us in the group chat before you got here?
I had heard Editors before.
Yes.
So I had the first album, in the back room, but based off the single Munich, because that came out in 2005 and I was 20, and I was like, I'm going to buy this album. It's great. And it was like an indie hit in all of the dance clubs and stuff like that. So that's really good to sing along to. Then I believe I did an illegal download of this album when it came out.
Those were the
On their way.
days.
Because when I was 22, I wasn't as flush as when I was 20, weirdly. So,
These cycles happen.
Well, it was more because I was very much immersed in the punk and hardcore scene. So, like, a lot of my money went on merch and punk and hardcore. So, to keep my indie roots, it was more like, I need to illegally download this. So I illegally downloaded this album, and I know I listened to it, and I know I listened to the singles, but I didn't pay as much attention to it as I did with In the Back Room, just because it had Munich on it. So I'd had them, and I have also seen them live.
Nice.
So I saw them in a Reading Festival based off the back of Munich. They were opening up the Enemy Radio 1 tent in the afternoon at like 2:00 in 2005. And so I went to go and see them there, and they were good, but I can't I can't recall anything about them like I did with the Muse episode. And then I saw them again.
Was Muse on later that day?
No, I don't think Muse are on. It was just like when I saw Muse the first time, it was like completely memorable. But then I saw them again at Leeds Festival in 2013. They were on the same bill as Biffy Clyro and 9 Inch Nails. But the cool thing about Reading was they were first on, but then it was like Baby Shambles, Arcade Fire, and stuff like that were on as well. So, So
Pretty good set.
Yeah, it's a pretty good. Yeah, so they play on good sets, and so I'd heard the album, and I'd heard of Editors, obviously, because I'm English and I like English indie. Yeah. And they were played a lot on Radio 1 and
That's what
Radio
I was going to ask. Is it, did they get played so much that you were sick of them from hearing them everywhere?
I'm not sick of them, because I really enjoyed dancing to them. So, like, when I was going through, they had 5 singles here, and they're all songs to dance to. Between June 07 and June 08, they released 5. And, like, when I was listening to the album again, I was very much like, oh, yeah, I could definitely, like, dance to this, or I'm pretty sure I've danced to this. So, yeah, cool. I know of them.
One thing I was going to say, too, I forgot to mention about seeing them live in 2010 was that even though they're on the back of the third album, they still played a lot of stuff off this album, more stuff off this album than off the third album, which I really liked.
Nice.
And I assumed was because Chris was still in the band, so he was still like, no, I want to play my guitar songs. We're going to play this. And also because they were on a festival, like they were touring, but they wouldn't have been able to bring a lot of synths. Like a lot of bands when they come out here can't bring, if they've got like 4 synths and they've got a huge stage set up, they can't necessarily afford to bring it if they're like a not really well known band here, and they won't sell a lot of tickets, which they wouldn't have been. So they might have brought like not quite as many of all the different pieces that they used, and then that might have influenced the decision to go, well, let's play the ones that sound great with our guitar and we don't have to have everything together for it. But it was really good to see him live because his voice is amazing, as we will have we have said and we'll say again.
Well, that was it. When I first heard Munich, I was just like, oh, this is new wave, but it's new wave.
Yeah,
it's not indie as I know it. It's like I'm thinking like Joy Division, I'm thinking Depeche Mode and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm intrigued. I like this genre very much. So that's why I carried on listening to them and didn't pass them off as some other like random indie fodder that just was going to fly by.
Cool.
Random indie fodder.
Grant,
Yes.
had you heard of Editors before I popped them into the group chat and said, check these guys out?
No, I have not. I knew nothing
Fair
of
enough.
them.
Yeah.
Although I feel like I need to have listened to the Apple listing and hear Munich, because I may well have known Munich. 2007 release date. Deep in the depths of CA studies, having just migrated to Australia.
Can you elaborate on what CA stands for the listeners, please?
Chartered accounting.
Thank
Chartered
you.
accountant. So
You're a chartered accountant.
I am.
aren't you, Grant?
I am a qualified chartered accountant, quite incredibly. But I enjoyed the course so much. I wrote more than double the required exams to get through.
Nice.
As an aside, so keep applying yourself, and maybe you'll get there, and then never use it. But that's fine.
Yeah.
So I was studying, but had absolutely heard the An End Has a Start. That song I had
that's
definitely
interesting.
heard
Right.
somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I was like, no, I've heard that for sure.
Okay.
So yeah, but certainly fresh ears.
Yeah, because Smokers Outside the Hospital Doors was the one that got on the radio, but still not mainstream.
And a desperately
airplay or
sad
anything.
song.
Yeah.
Luck.
And it got to, that was the first single, came out in June. So that was right before the album came out.
Yeah.
And it got to number 65 in the 2007 Hottest 100 as well. So that was the only time they ever got a Hottest 100 entry, was just that song, big kickoff single sort of thing. So
That's cool.
it was, but so they were on the radio, but more for that song than An End Has a Start. Although sometimes I think, I should have looked at the page for the single, because it feels like the kind of song you could put, like, I don't know, on a Grey's Anatomy or an American TV show could pick it up, because it's probably a pretty cheap licensed song to get, and it sings about death, so you could put it on.
There's
something.
a lot of fucking songs about death.
There are a lot of songs about death. So
It talks
just,
about morbid, deathy things quite a lot.
Which
Liberally.
Which surprised me from a Liam perspective.
Well,
Because Liam is somewhat of an optimistic human being. And so for you to be in the macabre was a surprise when you nominated this album.
So
yes. I think he's playing us.
this, no, not at all. This grabbed me. Like, I was listening to this because nothing I was listening to at the time sounded like this, and talked about. So this is an album that's primarily focused with death. It talks about death in nearly all the songs. It's all about. So he actually had a bunch of people that he knew get sick and die between the two albums. So that's why a lot of these songs are about that. They're about that experience of losing someone, and they're about the experience of dying and that sort of stuff. So he's obviously an atheist. He obviously believes that death is the end. Like, you just live your life, and when it's over, it's over.
That's what I'm hoping for, to be fair. I want this to end.
So he said in some interviews, I only found this out today, but he said in some interviews, realizing that death is part of life can be amazing. People ask me why we're so dark, but the music we make makes me happy. So I think part of the thematic stuff in through is like, so I share his belief that death is just the end. But also a lot of people who believe that then go, okay, so nothing means anything, so I'm going to have an anarchic life, or I'm going to go crazy, or I'm going to do a lot of drugs, or like live wildly or whatever. But I think his position is that that's a silly way to live. That the best way to live is to live for the people around you and for yourself, but to live and love and be surrounded by love. And you want the love in your life to be like the thing that keeps you going. So,
Well, thematically, a lot of it is about reaching out to somebody in pain.
Yes.
Or being reached to because you're in pain.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, like, pain is inevitable. It's like, someone's in pain and I'm going to come to you, or I'm in pain and you come to me. And so it's not hopeless.
Yeah. So I think
I think not hopeless is.
I think, absolutely. So I don't think it's like death. So I think in the Manic Preachers album we talked about, I think thematically it's a little different. Like dark is an easy label to put on it. But I think with Manic Street Preachers, they looked at all these things. So eating disorders, political systems, world systems, all that sort of
Everything
stuff.
was stuffed.
His was, Tom's is much more personal. His is about his own position and his own thoughts. And I think his position is, we are all going to die.
Probably.
The love that you have won't save you from death. He's not trying to save you from it, but it will make life worth having been loved and loving will make life be worth living itself. It won't save you from what's going to come. It won't stop what's going to come, but you should just judge yourself and you should just be the person you want to be and be the love that you want to be in the world, which I was listening to and I hadn't quantified it at the time, but I think I 100% agree with that. That I am an atheist, so I believe it's just going to stop.
Atheist, not agnostic.
I go between atheist and agnostic so atheist in terms of I think it just stops. There's no afterlife. There's nothing after this. But then agnostic in terms of like, is there a God? Is one of the gods real? Like, because even religions, not all religions have an afterlife either. Like they're all so, yeah. So
that's an interesting take.
And I hadn't thought of it. And then I heard this guy singing about all this stuff. It's like, yeah, there's death. And everyone you know dies, which is like the Flaming Lips. Do you realise? Everyone you know someday will die.
Yeah, I know, but not quite as cheerfully as the Flaming Lips.
But theirs is like, so tell everyone that you love them. And I think his position is in a similar point without singing quite so happily about it. So that's why this album really grabbed me.
But
right from the
also
start.
the music is sometimes really optimistic and like a banger. That basically, so it's not like the Manic Street Preachers in where you could not dance to some of that.
No, like it's like a sort of grotty punk speedy
No,
thing. This is like
They released 5 singles off this album, off a 10-track album, where you could go and dance in an indie club to any of them, and that's joyful and euphoric. That's not I'm really miserable or whatever, though I did go to a new wave night the other night and stare at my own shoes. It was good fun. It was good fun. Yeah, okay. It was great. I just stared at my own shoes and pretend like nobody else existed. But anyway, so like some of their music sounds really optimistic underneath the lyrical content, where if you pay attention, it's like, oh, okay, bit more bleak.
Yes. Yeah, which I think is also part of their vibe is like, yeah, we want you to think about this stuff and take this message away, but also we want you to have a good time while you're listening to it. We want you to be able to move around and dance around and have a little bit of joy, even if the songs aren't necessarily joyful themselves.
Which is why they open with Smokers Outside the Hospital.
Yes.
Doors.
One of my, just an amazing song. Just, I absolutely love this song. And it's got the drum, so dum, 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 dum. And then him on the piano and his vocals. And then just that guitar. So a lot of songs would do like a slow build up to that guitar, the crashing, like really high pitch, high tempo guitar bits. They might build up to those, but he's just like piano single. If you're not expecting it, it's just like it hits in, like it just like crunches into these guitars, and then goes on from there. And he talks about, but even like so, right? So the very first line of the album, and we won't drop it in, but he talks about putting a blindfold on and then running at speed through a field of trees, which is a super dangerous thing to do, right? But that's the energy of the song, is like it's chaotic and it's wild and it's dangerous. And that's literally the first thing that he says on the entire album.
Which is awesome. And he says,
I can't shake this feeling I've got. My dirty hands have been in the walls. The saddest thing that I'd ever seen was smokers outside the hospital.
Yeah, which is the sad, like that is.
It is.
It's really sad, and not to say that those people are responsible for the sadness of it. Like that's a thing.
But that's a life I have lived. When I used to go to the hospital for an appointment every 2 weeks back in the UK, and I would walk past like some of the same old people attached to a drip, sat outside smoking, and I was just like, what is going on? I just wanted to know their story. There was no judgment there.
No.
I just wanted to know what their story was, that they're sat on a bench outside the hospital doors holding their drip.
And in the gown.
In the gown.
Proper,
and then,
like the whole thing. Yeah.
So it's, because I think it's the patients who are smoking outside, and then it's the employees who are smoking outside. So you have to try and get away from like the merciless death and despair that can be happening inside. Like, I just need 5 minutes outside to smoke and just relieve myself from it.
Yeah.
And then people who are visiting people as well, who might be there visiting like a long-term person and who are like, just like, I need to get out of this room. It's cloying, you know, I need to just go outside. So I think no matter what situation you find yourself in, smoking outside the hospital doors, it's a really bad one.
Yeah. And he captured it with a choir.
Yes, he's got a chorus that he brings in.
Yeah, that comes in. That's inspirational considering everything else.
Yeah. And then they're singing just on a repeat. We've all been changed from what we were, our broken parts smashed on the floor.
Nice.
So another deadpan imagery of just like,
And they carry on whilst he carries on singing over the top of them as well.
Yeah, it gets almost euphoric at the end while still being quite dour, but they're still thrashing away on the drums and guitars. So I didn't mention, so the band's lineup is Tom Smith, Russell Leach on bass and synth, and on backing vocals, Ed Lay on the drums, and Chris Urbanovich on lead guitar. And I think they all do an awesome job. Like, just carrying that, because I think you could get bogged down into writing songs and having stuff be really dark and dour and losing people in the depths of it. But I think they do an amazing job of keeping it, the punchiness and the upbeatness of it all the way through.
And there's also, I didn't get the names, but cello, string arrangements, violin, choir, and then Edith Bowman was on there, and it just says as performer.
Yeah.
And I don't know what she did, but Edith Bowman is like, she is like a Radio 1 presenter who used to do like the weekend show back in the UK, and they used to play loads of stuff like this, and she was really great. I think she's Scottish actually. And she was really great, and I don't know at what point she joined in on this album, but she's credited.
She's in the liner, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Liner.
She's in line notes, so I've got no idea. And I've been listening out for her when I've been listening to the album, and I'm yet to discover a moment where I can go, oh, Edith Bowman's done
Definitely
it.
her.
Because
Yeah.
there's one point where there's spoken word, I think, but it's not her, it's a masculine voice.
Okay, I don't remember that. James Banbury did the cello and the string arrangements. Alison Dodds and Fiona McCappera were on violin. And then the choir and the chorus were Anne Struther and Garrett Jackknife Lee.
Oh, cool.
But so I don't know whether performer means they had, because it sounds like more than two voices. So I don't know whether they just took the two of them and layered themselves, or maybe performers were also in the chorus.
Nice. And then it goes into the song we discussed briefly, and end has a start, which is the album title.
Yeah.
And it has the huzzah moment on the way through it as well. Like, he even says, even an end has a start. So it's the huzzah moment. So you've got that sort of the punchy, the big epic number to start, which goes for nearly 5 minutes. And then this one's like just one of many dancey numbers, like on the way through, like mod rock dance numbers. But it's just got a savage intensity as well. So it's just,
and
really intense all the time.
The lyrics.
You came on your own, that's how you leave. With hope in your hands, a net of
Yeah. So that's because once sitting down and thinking about this album, I was thinking about, because you came on your own, so you're born. I mean, you're not born alone, because there are, your mother at the very least is another person who's there.
Sure.
But there's a big thing that talks about you die on your own, and I think that's like a recurring motif, not just in this album, but in like culture and stuff generally.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily always true, because people die surrounded by their loved ones. But even if they can't even if being surrounded by your loved ones doesn't protect you or do anything, you still die. But I think it's around, you can't have a recurring motif of you'll die surrounded by friends and family.
No.
Because so many people, that doesn't happen. And you're setting people up, like, you might be giving people false expectations of like, hey, death isn't so bad because you're surrounded by friends and family. Whereas the people, especially like Tom, are just like, some people will, but some people will just die alone.
Yeah, I think I probably put it. Well, I reflect on it and go, it's that experience of being born. It's a mom would experience giving love there, but that person is experiencing the first breath on their own, and death on your own you're going to be on your own in a literal passing.
Yeah.
Everyone could be around you, sure, but there's only one person that's going to do it if you're in a deathbed, for example. So that's how I took it. Like,
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, it's
We
very
could talk
good.
about
Yeah.
it forever.
We could, yes. We would be here all
but
night.
I mean, that's a classic line, I suppose, and it is difficult to misinterpret. And I like lyrics like that,
But it's really driving. It's like
yes,
a full
it's like a
sound.
full-
It's like
yeah.
a banger in the clubs as
Yeah.
well, like totally.
But, like-
it's just like everyone's like fists in the air. You came on your own.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is really sad that we're punching in the air. To
We're not talking about going to the club,
Yeah.
You arrived at the club on your own and you're going to go home on your own. No.
We're not singing being alive. We are
Yeah.
singing about being alone and dead, and that's fine. But because of the way the music is composed, it's still a banger.
Yeah.
And it came
It's a
out
great track.
it was a really good single to release. So well done to them.
What was that? That was the second single.
It was the second single.
It does open with one of my favorite lines too, and I won't drop this in. There's a devil at your side, but an angel on her way. So it's like the devil's here already, but the angels get here. But as long as it takes the angel to arrive, the devil's going to be running the show.
And he also says more and more people I know are getting in. And I'm like, what's that about? It made me
Well, it
curious.
goes to your
I
thing.
think it
that a
goes
lot
to
of
the thing
guys
of like people
pegged.
around him were dying, and yeah.
Yeah, okay. I basically wrote a lot of notes saying he must have lost someone that would be affected by people when writing this album.
Yeah, I
It's
think
like,
he lost a few people.
there is no way you can write this sort of album if you haven't experienced that. Mm-hmm. And so I think he captures it properly.
Yeah. Cool. So we won't go point by point through all the rest, but did you have any other highlights, Grant, that you wanted, any double ticks that you got?
Oh, look, there are numerous double ticks, which is good for you, obviously. And look, it's a dark theme as a reference. I listened to this over the weekend whilst, and for the listeners, I'm releasing a book next year. And so part of the deal details 4 traumas that I experienced. So I'm now trying to find some photographs to go with this book. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at photographs of my dad, and I'm trying to find all these things, and I'm listening to this. I'm like, geez, guys, like when I was like a 14-year-old and an 18-year-old, and it's it was a real downer and a real struggle to get through. And I was super melancholy afterward, having listened to it, which is credit to the music, and musically it is awesome. So I've got lots of lyrics written down here, but I suppose in terms of moving tracks, the Racing Rats.
Yep. Nice, awesome song.
Great piano intro, and then onto the guitar.
Yeah, so that you got the piano, and it's really fast piano. Like he's hitting the note, like lots of notes really quickly, and then rising up into takes off into that mod rock danciness and stuff as well. So one of the things that he does, we'll just stay in Racing Rats for a second, is he's got his voice, and he finds a line, like, you can tell his voice by the end of the album. You're like, okay, I know this guy's voice pretty well. But then in each of the choruses for the songs, he just adds a little tweak
Twist.
to it.
Yeah.
Just a little one, and it's usually different for each song as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's never the same.
Which is why I put those lyrics, and we might have the same one.
Yeah, go for it.
Come on now, you knew you were lost, but you carried on anyway. Oh, come on now, you knew you had no time, but you let the day drift away.
100% lyric buddies. Is
Lyric
this
buddies,
the
yeah.
so he's got this magnificent sound, but it never sounds like he's struggling to hit that sound. Like that's just his normal singing voice. And then in the chorus for this one, it becomes this desperate, strangled shouting. Like he has to lift he's got an intense voice, and then somehow he manages to find another level to lift it up to. Like he's pleading and he's desperately almost shouting with people. So, yeah, the chorus for Racing Rats is awesome.
And also, the guitar riff in the verse is absolutely beautiful. Like, really good work. Because there's a big guitar riff and kind of solo over the first verse that's repeated a few times. So, with that stabby piano and the lyrics and everything, it feels like the planes crashing and pretending
Yeah.
we've never met.
Yeah, so he says if a plane were to fall from the sky, how big a hole would it leave in the surface of the earth?
Yeah.
And then, so some of the things that I'd read, and I didn't get this as much, but some of the things that I'd read about the album said that was about, like, people would just, if a plane were to fall, they wouldn't actually go, oh my God, it's horrific that a plane falls. They'd be like, I mean, in the modern day, it's like they'd film it. They'd be like, oh my God, this thing's happening. I've got to capture it. And like, it's how big a spot's going to leave. And, I need to know all this information about it, but they wouldn't actually feel connected because they don't feel connected to the people on it. They would just be like, what does this mean for me? And how do I,
extrapolate value from this
Yeah.
for me. The other one is, the other huge one, of course, is The Weight of the World. And like, geez, bro.
Yeah.
Double tick for sure.
Yeah. So that one slows it down. So we hit the big epic intense one on the first one, and then like a moddy dance rock for the second one, and then the third one just is like we can play this at a slower space as well.
Don't you think the drum intro sounds like the 80s? It's just like a real 80s drum intro. Yeah, I was just like, yep, I'm on board.
Yeah.
It's like you've been compared to new wave bands now, and you're like, fuck it, embrace it.
we are.
Don't care.
Yeah. So that one was really lovely. And it just made me say in my notes, what have you been through, Tom?
Yeah.
Because I'm on track 3. And he said,
Every little piece of your life will add up to one. Every little piece of your life, well, it means something to someone.
So it's about the death. It's still about dying and your life being over.
No,
but this is
really?
but this is the positive one. It's like everything you did means something to someone. Every
Yeah.
interaction you had with someone. Yeah, so cool.
I had the lyrics up before that. Keep a light on for those you love. They will be there when you die.
Yeah,
that's sweet.
yeah. But that's his thing. Is like
And that's the thing.
it's-
That's the thing.
He's like, death is the end and it's final, but the love you have in your life is what you should be trying to live for.
So those are my other big ones, certainly.
Yeah, well, so that theme carries straight into Bones. Has a big like epic echoing guitar riff, and then becomes like another Moddy dance song. But he says,
In the end, all you can hope for is the love you felt to equal the pain you've gone through. Are your eyes showing up for mine? Your face in my hands is everything that I need.
Lyric buddies.
yeah, nice.
And also the drums do like an emphasis on the love and gone and do
Yeah.
the appropriate parts.
Yeah.
And then like repeat it through like the instrumentals. So that sounds really cool underneath the vocals to have like a drum just going like underneath it.
Yeah.
So I've emphasized that when I wrote it down, but that's cool. We're a lyric buddy.
Yeah.
But there's medical like imagery where he references bones and flesh and heart.
Yeah.
But
flesh.
in this one,
Starved of flesh.
he seems like he is helping someone else. Like he's reaching out to somebody else in pain.
Yeah. But then, yeah, when he says your face in my hands is like everything good I need, is like it's the, like if you're worried that you're hurting me, don't worry about it because me being here is all I need from you, which is so cool. George, any other big songs you wanted to touch on?
Well, let's touch on the ominous synthesizers of When Anger Shows.
Love that song. It's probably one of my favorites.
Good piano and there's quick drums pulling, and then it sounds like he's got like trash can lids.
Okay.
So he's credited, our mate, as doing drums and percussion, and it sounds like he's using pots or pans or trash can lids or something like that, and it makes it sound like rain on a roof. And then the vocals come in, they're more new wave than ever. And it's a really like lift for the chorus. And
These thoughts I must not think of, dreams I can't make sense of. I need you to tell me it's okay. These
Lyric Buddies.
Yeah.
I've got that one.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
So
we're
cool.
all
Yeah, it's
literally
on-
all lyric buddies on
Yeah.
the same bit, right? So it's like morbid in that everything will die, but there's harmony of humming behind vocals, and then that really quiet. So it's got that ominous synthy intro, and then it replicates it in reverse for
Right.
the outro. So the intro outro are bookends of that track, and I was like, oh, that was good to listen to. Like, that was such a sweet thing for them to do in that track, is to like bookend it like that.
Because
So,
the
yeah.
intro reminded me of David Gray, who we did an earlier episode and I hadn't really heard of until we did this episode. And it was
Don't
just like
talk about him in my presence.
the way the guitar, like they fade in, like a lot of some of the other songs, everything sort of comes in at volume, but in this case, like the drums, like there's the piano and the synth stuff, and the drums come in, but they fade in, and the guitar parts really sort of fade in. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my favorite thing about that song is at the end when it cuts out and it's just the synth dance beat, and then this sort of subdued haunting guitar, and then that slow build of how can you know what things are worth if your hands won't move to do a day's work. And he starts singing it softly at first, and then he starts, like, his intensity starts. So this is the trick that he does in this song that he doesn't do, is like his intensity starts ramping up bit by each time he says the line. It gets more and more until the last time he says it is this, like, he's just like, how can you know? He just stops there because it's like this big explosion of sound and noise. I was like, how can you know? It's really cool.
It is cool. Yeah, it's a good track. And single number 4, Push Your Head Towards the Air.
Yeah.
So that starts with sweet acoustic guitar and humming, and piano and soft drums. So I did a little heart there.
Yeah.
But then the vocals are just over the guitar and piano, and it feels like it's almost the optimistic one.
Yes.
The
Sure.
like military drumming feels like it's like played with brushes with that big lift.
But I will tear the price from your head and keep you from harm. That's what you said.
Lyric Buddies. I got that one too.
Nice.
Don't need that one.
And then
I got another one, but
It's got a big, so it's I think it's the romance song. It's like the soul. It's more focused on romance than on actual death of the album. But it's definitely like the real softer one before we're going into a finish sort of thing. But yeah, it starts nicer. But then the ending, like from the bits with the lyrics you quote, is like a bit more punishing again. Like it's back to that theme of theirs.
And this is where the strings come in full force as well. Underlined strings.
Yeah, nice.
So, it's really lovely. The melody behind the vocals are really angelic. So it like suits the premise of the song.
Grant, what lyrics have you got?
I had now don't drown your tears, babe. Push your head towards the air. I will always be there. And I was like,
Yeah. So it's, now don't drown in your tears, babe. Push your head towards the air. Now don't drown in your tears, babe. I will always be there.
Like,
Oh,
Yeah. Super cool.
like, that's nice.
you just look really sweet and soft when you said that. That's
Well, it is nice for a macabre. You know, I think thinking about it now, it's like these guys. It's such a serious theme, and it's not like it's like he's seriously still like dealing with all of like whatever the passings may have been.
Yeah.
And he's not like saying you need to attack life or have this zest for life. He's like just like look out for each other.
Just accept it.
Just freaking
be aware that this is a thing. Yeah.
like-
Yeah. He's not. I don't think he. Apart from filling it with love, he's not like you should live this way. You should live with a zest life. Live every day like it means something. You should be an anarchist, take a lot of drugs, and live chaotically.
There
like
isn't any of that. No.
It's his only message is get love where you can.
Yeah.
And just be it. Not you can't escape it. You can't avoid it or do whatever. So just accept that it's there and live as though it's there, because people maybe in his mind they don't live as if they're going to die one day.
Yeah, maybe.
And the atmospheric outro leads into the atmospheric intro of Escape the Nest.
Yeah.
That then becomes more ominous but until the full band joins in.
Yeah.
But there's a cracking bass line echoing the vocal line,
Yeah.
which is rare. Usually it's a guitar line where the vocal line will follow. But this one's the bass line where the vocal line follows, and I thought that was a real nice play. And his vocals go higher pitched in the chorus.
In the chorus. So this is his vocal trick for Escape the Nest. It's almost like it's this energetic, it's this desperation, but he's almost plaintive, like he's begging someone to do something.
He says, "I'm drained and I'm empty. I've still got love in me. There's eyes in the sky tonight watching us lose the fight."
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
Why, Tom?
Yeah.
But he also, he's got. I wrote down quite a lot of lyrics for that one, but it's really atmospheric and really quite beautiful.
And there's like that pounding drum, almost like a heartbeat all the way through it too. It's like, dum, dum, like almost like a callback to the first song. Yeah. It's really cool.
Anything else there, George? Are we going for final pitch? You want to talk about the last one? Or?
I will just touch on the last song.
Yeah,
Love it.
Well-worn hand.
Yeah, well-worn hand. Nice and short. Like, I think in some hands this might have been like a 7, like Tom might have gone, here's my 7-minute magnum opus of me and my piano. It's just, I'm going to do this. But I think he just like, no, at just under 3 minutes, I think it's the shortest one of the album, because it is just him and the piano and a little bit of like really, really soft guitar in the background, but still like wailing guitar. Like they've just turned the gain down on it, but they're still thrashing it. But yeah, I think really good that they just went, this just needs to be a short one. Still a song about love and how it can help and about how you want to hide from the outside world. So he says,
I don't wanna go out on my own anymore. I can't face the night like I used to before.
So I think that's nice. So yeah, I think that's just these people that he lost in his life, maybe people that he used to go out with, and it's just he can't face doing that without them anymore.
Yes, he's just changed.
Yeah.
I guess
Like
he's seen some stuff and things. Your perspective changes when you've like encountered that much trauma, and you maybe can't relate on the same level as you could with the same people. And that's
innocence
okay.
lost, sure,
but that's fine. We grow and we change and we move on and we find new people and stuff and who we can be with, no matter what trauma we've experienced. So
and I think. Cool. He obviously didn't get bogged down in this either, because the next album was more synthy and more dance, like it's almost more dance stuff and up, like it's a bit more upbeat and stuff. So it's kind of, he captured a moment in his psyche really well, but not a thing where he was on a downhill and he kept going downhill. It was like maybe the album even helped him. It's like categorized a lot of the thoughts and cauterized a lot of the thoughts.
Catharsis.
Sure. And then just went,
forgive me, I would think
here's
so.
my thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Any other
now I'm with Liam.
Final thoughts? Am I jumping on the final pitch?
Oh, is it final pitch time? I think
pitch,
so.
bud.
Cool. So we've talked all the things that I love about this album. The instrumentation is superb without ever being like, look at me, flashy, like the drum solo or a big wailing guitar solo or anything like that. He's good. His voice is superb. Like I said, he finds that through line and then finds little ways to differentiate it all the way through. Lyrically, a lot of times when we're talking about lyrics, it's like, here's this song and it's about this, but there's this really cool lyric tucked away in here, and you might even miss it if you weren't really paying attention. The best lyrics in this album are the choruses. He's found the best ideas and imagery that he can find, and it's just gone right. And that's what I'm going to make the song about, is right up front. So yeah, the biggest, most momentous moments, Tom finds them, is beautiful. It's a perfect length, slower song at the end and then another softer closer. So thematically it treads this really fine line. So it addresses death in a really straightforward way, which makes it seem dark. But I think that's just because a lot of people don't think about death in a straightforward way. So it always feels like the love and the love from friends and family can't save you from death, but it will make life worth it. So it's not anarchic and it's not hopeless, but it is what it is. And that's why I think the album's flawless.
Gosh, you're just putting it out there, aren't you?
I am. I love this album. I think it's amazing.
Well, clearly.
Yeah.
Flawless. But no, that's fair enough. And on such dark themes.
George, final thoughts and a thumbs up or a thumbs down for editors, and End has a start.
So, editors, obviously I knew them. Nick was is still on multiple playlists of mine, like indie classics and dance tunes and stuff like that. Anyway, so I loved them enough to illegally download them when I was 22. So thanks for that, guys. Sorry about the money, but I think you're fine now.
I think they're fine. Yeah.
Yeah, because of them and because I dance to them so much. They are all such accomplished musicians, not museums, musicians, for my handwriting is appalling. And they made some absolute epic indie hits. Their tunes are catchy despite having really intense themes. I really love the new wave stuff, even though I'm sure they hate the comparisons like all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And I genuinely loved the miserable theme and how it was sometimes optimistic and how it wasn't, because it was never triggering to me. As somebody that's like experienced lots of death in my life, I was never triggered by the things that you were singing about. So it was awesome. And those singles were largely played at indie clubs. I would sing along badly and had a lovely time. My single problem with the album, however, and I'm so sorry, Liam, is I wanted a banger at the end to say, this is the editors and we've played 8 bangers. Then we've had a bit of a reprieve with Spiders, and then we're going to end on a high note and send you off on a high note. But instead, it was Well Worn Hand, which is a very pretty secret track, but it lacked the rest of the band who have taken me on this journey. So I couldn't give it a flawless because when I got to the end of Well Worn Hand, like every time, I was just like, I'm just wanting. I'm wanting for something more. And I'm wanting for one of those. They have 5 singles from here, and I wanted one of those 5 singles to be at the end, and that's how I wanted the album to end. So I'm sorry I can't give it flawless, but I am really grateful. I downloaded it back in 2007, and you gave me an opportunity to listen to it properly again and bring back so many awesome memories.
Cool.
So thank you for that.
All good. No problem. Grant, final thoughts and a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Yes, see, hey, editors. Never heard of them. I'll have to listen to music, and maybe maybe I need the song, but sure. 2007, an end has a start. I think the themes, or the theme of death, we've spoken ad nauseum about, and the imagery of smoke is outside the hospital door is probably, I'd never verbalized that as being or thought of it. And I'd seen lots of it. I've been to a lot of hospitals and I've seen it, but I wouldn't, to put it in a song and to put it in with such grace, I think is an absolute credit to the guys. And I don't know if I was triggered so much as listening to, as I mentioned earlier, with the finding photographs for the book that I'm writing about trauma. Of course, contextually, that's going to...
Yes.
I'm like...
I will say, if you told me, hey, Liam, I'm going to listen to this album while I'm looking at photos of my dad, I'd have said, don't do that, Grant.
Yeah, sure. But I didn't know. I mean, I'm
listen
literally
to it
going
once,
in...
first time outside of that, and then if you feel up to it, do that, but definitely not for
but, this is... I found it incredibly well written, and it is with grace and with, I think, dignity, and it's not saying do any of these other things, be an anarchist or go and be happy clappy or just be cheerful. It's been awesome that way, and I enjoyed Well Worn Hand, and I've got no problem saying I think it is flawless. I don't like it. Okay. I don't. I mean, I thoroughly appreciate the musicianship and the fact that it gives you lyrics to think about in a constructive way, and it's not, screaming and belting all the time. I think it's an amazing record, and thank you for bringing it. I genuinely appreciate it. So I'm happy to say, hey, bud, flawless. Cool. There are separate tracks I could easily add to a playlist. An amazing album. So thank you.
All good. No worries there. Couldn't quite get it over the line. We'll get them next time.
Sorry, Liam.
That's all good. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we are Flawless AMP on all of those. So you can join the conversation, share or like our posts, and give us a rating, and every little bit helps us to find more music lovers like you, team music people.
Oh,
Team music.
Team
Team
music.
music. As mentioned, we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/flawlessamp. So if you'd like to back us, check that out. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next time.
I'm so sorry.